Thank you, Chair. If I could come back to you, Donna, I think, if we had a world that was more survivor focused, it would provide a lot more support, a lot more coming forward, and a lot more of a deterrent. So something for us to all think about in our lives. But you talked a lot, and a few people have mentioned this, that there needs to be more training, trauma-informed training for the VAC people who are working so closely with veterans. And I'm just curious, it makes me think about, if you discuss your experiences with any kind of sexual assault or harassment, and when you were in the CAF, it was never addressed or was swept under the table, or you didn't feel safe enough to come forward, how does VAC deal with that information? Is the veteran provided any sort of supports to figure out how to come forward with that story? Is there any information? I'm curious about how that communication happens between the CAF and VAC.
That's a really good question, because whenever somebody discloses to me, I treat it as if it's the first time they disclosed, right? Because it could be. And I know that people are disclosing to VAC case managers, and I know that, again, similar to anything else, if you're trained, great, you're confident in how you're going to support that person, but if you're not, you can fumble it and you can cause more damage. It's tough, and I know that it's tough because the system tries to protect your identity because it's, they don't want to cause you trauma, but at the same time, there needs to be a much more open conduit and a way for people to come forward and self-identify in a way that doesn't have any repercussions. I'm not sure what the answer is. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, and I think that is a big gap. I guess my last question, I don't have a lot of time, so do you want to add something, Christine? Or okay, just wanted to make sure. One of the things that we've noted very clearly is the data collection of both the CAF and VAC is very poor, and that lack of collecting data doesn't allow us to follow the paths of women through the system. So I'm just wondering if you could speak to that, and when I get more time, I'll come back to the rest of you on that question.
Sure. I know that in our training we use stats, and they're mostly American because that's where we can pull them from. So I can tell you that in the U.S., 2 out of every 3 survivors of MST will leave the military within a year if they're not given the right support. So we can extrapolate that and say it's probably similar in Canada because we're so closely linked, to which my response is always, knowing how starved our Canadian Armed Forces are for members, I don't think we can afford to lose 2 out of 3 of anybody, especially considering supporting somebody when they come forward should be a no-brainer. That should be a really easy fix. But as I've said, there still is no mandatory training for that really important trauma first aid, that mental health first aid when somebody comes forward.
Thank you.